All right. So, welcome all to Undercomplicated, where we, two psychologists with over 40 years of combined experience, share our insights to help undercomplicate important topics. So, a friendly reminder before we get started is that this video is meant to be conversational and for entertainment purposes only. Please see the information section of this video for additional resources should you need them. So I'm going to toss it to my wonderful co-host to ask you to introduce yourself.
All right, thanks, Julie. I'm Dr. Stacey Gedeon. I'm a health psychologist, and now I am a healthcare consultant and professional coach. And I'm excited to be doing this with my colleague.
Yeah, so I'm Julie Radico. I am also a psychologist and a coach, and I also do some writing and speaking. And the thing I'll highlight for our listeners today is I co-authored a book called You Will Get Through This with two other amazing mental health clinicians. And so that book should be in most of the local libraries around the country. So again, it's called You Will Get Through This. It's a mental health toolkit to help demystify some really like key mental health topics, which brings us right back to our mission to undercomplicate things for you all. So our question today, Stacey, is what actually is assertiveness?
That is something that you and I have both come across a ton, not only clinically, but I think also we both had experiences in leadership roles where it's come up and really is misunderstood. And so, we can always look at definitions. My overriding definition is it's expressing your needs, your wants, your thoughts, your feelings in a way that is clear and kind. So you're
Mm,
not being a jerk. You're also not letting people run all over you. And it's sort of that sweet spot, that Goldilocks zone of communication, but it's really hard to do.
100%. It is hard to be assertive. And you touched on leadership and that sometimes we serve in roles, work, home, community, where we are expected to be guiding people, to be making decisions, to be sharing our thoughts. And that needs us then to find, as you're saying, Stacey, this Goldilocks zone, this, I need to express what needs to get done or what my thoughts are, and to do so in a way that feels like it's constructive, that people are receiving it in a helpful way. The trouble is sometimes we have been conditioned or we have received feedback as humans, and oftentimes, I'm just going to say it, y'all, as women,
And
to think that when we are asserting ourselves, that somehow we are being aggressive. Ugh. What are your thoughts about that, Stacey?
exactly. And a lot of people will think we have two options. We can be the aggressive jerk that we've all seen, whether it be at a gas station, at a restaurant, anywhere in our workplace, or we think our only other option is to be passive, where we're
Mm.
people pleasing and don't stand up for ourselves and everybody else's needs come first. And as you mentioned, women in particular, we are socialized to be that way. And so I think a lot of people do struggle with how do I find that middle ground where I can get my needs met and not be a jerk, essentially.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, 'cause you're saying there are jerks out there. We have all encountered people in our lives that we're like, oh, I would like to interact with you less. And maybe you can choose that. Maybe it's a informal sort of gathering where you can decide, oh, I will just stay on the other side of the room, or I'm not going to go to this event in the future and interact with this person, or I'm going to set a boundary in a way that feels healthy for me so that I can let this person know I'm not going to respond this way, like to this sort of aggressive communication. The tricky part is many times we get told as women that we are aggressive when we if you just recorded it and showed it to a neutral party, you de-identified it and you just like could make it sound like neutral voice sound and you couldn't see, like you're just stick person is talking to stick person is you might be like, no, that was not aggressive. That was just assertive. That was just assertive. That person found the Goldilocks zone. And were they perfect? No,
Right.
but they said things that were kind and compassionate and also informative and helpful, and they were clear. And like there's all this trappings of stuff
Yes.
that gets mixed in with our ability to be assertive and not feel like we're doing something wrong.
Yes. I mean, how many times have you rewritten an email or a text or thought about how you're going to say something so that you can come off as clear with what you're wanting or needing, but oh, I don't want to be a jerk. I don't want to be pushy and, get deemed a bully, or women and more are, shrew or other kind of words we're not going to use. Whereas men, honestly, it's revered
Mm,
if they act that way, and so that's something we have to work through. I mean, one of
mm,
the challenges is women, both in our personal lives and professional lives, to be able to get our needs met again in a way that's clear and kind.
mm.
Um, yeah, and it takes practice though. Do you have tips that you recommend to people for how to get going with it?
It's a fantastic question. The truth is there's no perfect way to be assertive, and there's no perfect way to communicate, period. We do have some really good, thoughtful work that gives us strategies to help in our communication, which that's what assertiveness is. It's kind, clear communication. And some of that is using I language, using we language. So if I come in the room and I'm like, Stacey, you need to get this done. Like, okay, I might be pushing the boundary of, like clear and kind. But if I say, oh, Stacey, we need to get this done. How can I best support this work? Like putting it into a way where I'm joining you and I'm not putting it all onto you, empathizing with that person. So combining the kind, clear language of I and we with, oh, Stacey, we need to get this done. How can I help support you? Because I understand that this is a lot. So
Yes.
I'm empathizing that, like, I'm asking you to do a whole bunch of stuff. We still need to do it, still needs to get done, but I'm going to join with you in supporting you, but also like empathizing that I'm just not here to like place a whole pile of work on you and walk away and be like, have fun, like, ugh. So those are some initial thoughts. I'm curious, what might you build onto that?
Well, in addition to building on, you demonstrated how one might approach that need aggressively. You need to do this. The other part is passive. When you can get to it, there's no rush. It's
Mm,
okay. I'll stay late to wait for your part. That's the passive piece that is also no good for
yeah.
that. Um, I like the I and the we. You're not blaming someone else and holding other people responsible for something that you're wanting or needing, per
Mhm.
se. And I think starting with low stake issues. So, something like you get the wrong change at the grocery store. I know people that I've worked with, and you probably have too, that would not say a peep about it. They would just take the wrong money, and maybe it's not much, but maybe it is. Um, or we've all seen, I think, the aggressive person that yells and screams and berates the
Mhm.
person, the cashier. And the assertive would be using the I statements. I think I'm owed X amount of dollars
Mhm.
in a way that's just not overheated with emotion or putting people down. And to that point as well, it's not only what we say, but how we say it, right?
Mhm.
And so we can say things all sorts of ways, and we both know as psychologists, nonverbals say more than verbals.
Mhm.
Um, so that's something else to be aware of if you're trying to work on being assertive, but your arms are crossed or you look angry,
Mhm.
that's not going to come across so well.
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful examples. And just to build on, there is so much information that we put across that is has nothing to do with what we're saying.
Yes.
And that's physically, but also even just the quality of how we say
Hmm.
things.
Hmm.
If you are rushing your words or your tone is loud or angry or like that, all of that data is helpful in there is a fine magical space, like a fine line, this Goldilocks space that women might need to, like, it's an even smaller amount that you're allowed to work within.
It's true.
Uh, and knowing that if I feel comfortable asking you or telling you I need you to help me with this project, and I am comfortable with my tone, with my body language, with how I'm expressing myself, that I'm putting out there what I would feel that I would resonate with and respond well with, then that is something to trust.
Hmm.
Trust yourself that if you're like the average person, me included, would be okay, then this is okay, no matter how the person who you're interacting with is responding in that moment, because they're going to be in all their feelings. And they might be thinking about how their feelings are not aware of how their feelings are impacted by the societal norms that we're confined within. And so to make it less jargony, they might not be aware of, oh, women leaders are more often perceived to be bitchy and to be, if they're having an off day, it's not perceived as an off day. Research tells us men are allowed to have off days. They come in and they're angry. Oh, he's having a bad day. Women come in and they're angry or they appear angry, and it is, oh, she needs to get herself together. She is a hot mess and she is just, this is true to her, she's just terrible. And it's, women, you're allowed to have a bad day. You're allowed to feel off. So trust yourself that if you are able to say, well, I think I said that in a
Hmm.
appropriate, professional, thoughtful way, knowing that I'm never going to get it perfect, to trust that that's okay, that it's not going to come out perfectly, but you don't have to stay trapped in this space.
Right.
That it's okay. You are not aggressive if you are asserting yourself and getting your needs met by telling people how to help you or work with you.
And I'd like to add excellent points and so true, and we've both experienced it. And I'd like to add on to something you said, where if you're trying to sort out if your communication was assertive or aggressive or um, you can't always rely on how it's received.
Mm,
So certainly that can be part of it, but it may be that it's not received well for any of the number of reasons you gave, gender-based, hierarchy-based, or maybe it's a new behavior and the person that you're practicing being assertive with isn't used to that and so tries to shut it down
mhm,
because it doesn't serve them. You know, they're more
mhm,
on the aggressive sort of bully side. And so also as you're practicing, take that into consideration that sometimes the way you know it went well is when the other person maybe gets stopped a bit and or sometimes it gets a little bit worse on the other end for a bit. But the point is to not always take that as an indicator of whether you're being assertive or not. It's really like you said, that internal sense of things.
yeah, yes, trust yourself. and
Mm.
and oftentimes we hear the term gaslighting, and people will say, I feel gaslit. Oftentimes in relationships, gaslighting can happen in any realm of our lives, especially professionally. Uh, and so your internal compass, let it serve you. If you are saying to yourself, well, when I replay that interaction, I genuinely think it went as
Mhm.
well as I could have done it. And I think I was on target there and wasn't trying to do anything harmful. And I could change this wording in the future, though I think it was where it needed to
Mhm.
be. Trust yourself.
Right.
Trust yourself. If I could jump into everybody, man, woman, like any identity that you have, if I could jump into your head and just say to you, you are enough, and to trust yourself, that would be like my little bullhorn inside your, ear, just like going like, Trust yourself. So as we start to wrap up on this topic,
Yes.
Stacey, tell me like what other thoughts do you have before we close up?
I again remembering that assertiveness is a communication style. It requires practice like anything else new that you're doing. And maybe think of it as being a team player versus a bully or a people pleaser. And start with low stakes. Start with something that isn't really big or has consequences that, may be really, really difficult. And it's also totally okay that it feels scary and uncomfortable and difficult. In fact, that's an indicator that you're kind of stretching yourself.
Mm. Yes.
How about
Yeah.
you?
Get comfortable with the discomfort.
Yes,
Yeah.
we love discomfort.
I love it, right? So, as your friendly, neighborhood psychologist, we're not doing therapy with you, but we do therapy with other people,
Right.
right? And discomfort is something that people will shy away from
Yes.
because it is uncomfortable. So, our key takeaway from today that we'd like you all to carry with you is that being assertive is not the same as being aggressive.
Yes.
It is impossible to present yourself in a way that makes everyone happy. So do what feels healthy for you because you're never going to make everyone happy. And message us on YouTube or LinkedIn with suggestions or questions that you would like us to discuss in future episodes. We want to hear from you your thoughts on this topic, but also what questions would you want your, friendly neighborhood psychologists and coaches to answer for you?
Absolutely. Love that.
All right.
Okay.
Well, bye,
All
everybody.
right. Next time.